Most people think they know what Bacta is, that translucent healing stuff from Star Wars, right? But here's what's really interesting. Bacta isn't just some made-up sci-fi nonsense. The science behind how it actually works is based on real medical principles we're starting to kind of understand. So today we're breaking down exactly what Bacta is, how it works, why it became so politically important in Star Wars, and why it might not be as fictional as you think. Because by the end of this video, you're going to see Bacta in a completely different way. Bacta is basically the Star Wars universe's ultimate medical miracle. It's a regenerative healing substance that speeds up tissue repair, reduces inflammation, kills pain, and fights off infection all at the same time. Think of it as the galactic standard for everything from battlefield trauma to post-surgery recovery. But what makes Bacta truly legendary isn't just what it does, it's how universal it is. This isn't some exclusive Jedi medicine locked away in the temple. Everyone uses it. From core world hospitals with their pristine medical facilities to sketchy outer rim med centers that probably haven't been cleaned in decades, if you're hurt in the Star Wars galaxy, you're probably getting Bacta in some form. The versatility is incredible. Minor injuries get topical gels or patches that you can slap on and forget about. Serious trauma gets direct injections that work almost instantly. But the really severe cases, that's where the famous Bacta tanks come in. Those cylindrical tubes filled with thick, semi-clear fluid, where you get completely submerged for hours or even days. Now here's where it gets interesting from a medical standpoint. Bacta doesn't just clean wounds or numb pain like regular medicine. According to Star Wars lore, it actually works on a cellular level, speeding up how your body rebuilds itself and even repairing damaged DNA. It's essentially hijacking your natural healing process and putting it into overdrive. But there's more to it than that. Bacta also boosts protein synthesis, which is crucial for building new tissue. It accelerates cellular regeneration, meaning your body can literally rebuild itself faster than should be possible. And it does all this while maintaining a sterile environment that prevents infection. Most people first saw Bacta in Empire Strikes Back. Remember Luke floating in that tank on Hoth after the Wampa nearly killed him? That scene wasn't just cool visually. It established that this galaxy had medical technology way beyond anything we had at the time. Luke goes from having massive facial trauma and hypothermia to being completely healed in what appears to be just a few hours. But Bacta kept showing up throughout the franchise, and each appearance told us more about how this stuff works. Clone troopers got Bacta sprays right on the battlefield, allowing them to keep fighting with injuries that should have taken them out of action. Darth Vader spent hours in Bacta tanks trying to manage his constant pain from those horrific burns on Mustafar. In the Book of Boba Fett, those tank scenes weren't just about physical healing, they were symbolic of Boba's transformation from bounty hunter to crime lord. The Bacta tank became a place of reflection and rebirth, showing us that this substance affects more than just the body. And remember Finn in The Force Awakens? After Kylo Ren's lightsaber nearly cut him in half, one Bacta treatment later, and he was back on his feet. Sore, but definitely not dead. That's the kind of trauma that would be fatal in our world, but in Star Wars, it's just another Tuesday. Even Cobb Vanth got the Bacta treatment in the Book of Boba Fett's credits. Just when we thought he was done for after getting shot. Surprise. Bacta swoops in to save the day. The point is, from Jedi Padawans to Sith Lords, everyone in this galaxy eventually needs Bacta. It's become a symbol of survival and resilience, but here's what most people don't realize. Bacta isn't some synthetic superdrug created in a lab. The truth about where it comes from is actually more interesting than the fiction. So, where does this miracle substance actually come from? According to Star Wars lore, Bacta is made from two specific ingredients, Alazi and Kavam. These are rare bacteria that only grow together on one planet, Thifera. Now, Thifera is basically the Bacta capital of the galaxy. Located in the inner rim, its humid jungles and unique biosphere create the perfect conditions for cultivating Alazi, a rare organic substance that gets harvested and then carefully blended with Kavam, a stabilizing agent. The whole process involves complex biochemical processing, often involving microbial fermentation. Think of it like brewing beer, except instead of alcohol, you're creating a substance that can literally save lives. But here's where things get really interesting and slightly disturbing. Because Bacta only comes from one planet, whoever controls Thifera essentially controls galactic healthcare. In the expanded universe, this led to some pretty dark political maneuvering. The Empire basically monopolized Bacta production through local corporations, specifically the Sukfra and Zoltan cartels. These weren't just businesses, they were political powerhouses that could influence entire star systems. Imagine if one company controlled all the world's antibiotics, insulin, and painkillers combined. That's the kind of power we're talking about. This is actually pretty realistic when you think about it. Look at how countries fight over oil reserves or rare earth minerals today. In Star Wars, they fight over Bacta. Control the medicine, control the galaxy's ability to recover from war. And the Empire wasn't subtle about it either. They placed near monopolistic control over Bacta production, jacking up prices and limiting supply to rebel-held territories. It was economic warfare at its most brutal, denying medical care to your enemies. But it gets worse. According to legends, Emperor Palpatine actually tried to develop a bioweapon that would neutralize Bacta's effects. The idea was to contaminate enemy supplies with something that would make Bacta not just useless, but actively harmful. Thankfully, his scientists never got the chance to complete this project, but the fact that he even tried shows you how twisted the politics around Bacta became. There were also saboteurs who contaminated Bacta supplies to cause allergic reactions in anyone who used them. Imagine going to the hospital for treatment and the medicine itself making you sicker. That's the kind of psychological warfare Bacta enabled. And Bacta isn't cheap. It's resource-intensive to make, requires specific storage conditions, and loses potency if not handled properly. A single Bacta tank treatment could cost anywhere from 3,000 to 100,000 credits. That's like buying a house just to heal from a serious injury. That's why full immersion tanks were mostly reserved for elite personnel. Jedi, high-ranking officers, valuable prisoners, or anyone with enough credits to afford it. Regular soldiers got patches or injections if they were lucky. Most of the time, they just had to tough it out. So whether you're getting a small Bacta patch or the full tank treatment, you're dealing with one of the most valuable and politically charged substances in the galaxy. But that still doesn't explain the big question. How does a bunch of bacteria actually rebuild your body? Alright, let's break down the science, or at least the sci-fi science. According to Star Wars sources, Bacta works by supercharging your body's natural repair systems. Instead of replacing how you heal, it just makes everything happen faster and more efficiently. The Alazi bacteria seek out damaged tissue and promote rapid regeneration, while the Kavam acts as a stabilizing agent that keeps everything working properly. But here's where it gets really fascinating. Bacta doesn't just speed up healing, it actually helps repair damaged DNA. Think about that for a second. Your DNA is like the blueprint for every cell in your body. When you get injured, especially from something like a lightsaber or blaster bolt, you're not just dealing with surface damage. You're dealing with cellular destruction at the genetic level. Bacta somehow identifies these damaged genetic sequences and helps repair them, allowing your body to rebuild tissue correctly instead of forming scar tissue. That's why Bacta-healed wounds don't leave marks. The tissue is literally rebuilt to its original specifications. The process also encourages rapid cell division, but in a controlled way. Normally, when your body tries to heal quickly, you get scar tissue because the cells are basically doing a rush job. Bacta ensures that even accelerated healing maintains the original tissue structure. But Bacta also protects against the kind of genetic damage that usually slows down healing. By creating an oxygen-rich, sterile environment around wounds, it gives your cells everything they need to do their job without interference from infection or environmental toxins. The tanks themselves are crucial to this process. They provide a pressurized, temperature-controlled environment where your body can focus entirely on recovery. You're suspended in near-weightless fluid, breathing through a mask with no pressure on your injuries and no need to move or exert yourself. Most patients describe the experience as oddly peaceful. You're floating in warm, viscous fluid that supports your entire body weight. Many report feeling like they're in a womb-like environment, completely safe and protected while their body does the work of rebuilding itself. But the sensory experience is unique. Bacta has an overwhelmingly sweet smell that lingers for weeks after treatment. Patients also report a persistent sour taste, like flat beer that stays in their mouth and nasal cavity long after they've left the tank. Some find it comforting, others find it nauseating. Now, Bacta has limits. It can't regrow lost limbs or bring people back from the dead. If tissue is completely destroyed or if someone has been dead for too long, Bacta can't help. It can only accelerate and improve the healing of living tissue. But within those limits, Bacta is incredibly effective. It can heal concussions, repair internal organs, mend broken bones, and even help regrow things like fingernails. Burns, cuts, blaster wounds, lightsaber injuries. If there's living tissue to work with, Bacta can probably fix it. Here's something interesting though. In the expanded universe, some species respond better to Bacta than others. Mon calamari, for example, heal faster in Bacta tanks because of their aquatic biology. The fluid environment is more natural for them, so the treatment is actually more effective than it is for humans. Rhodians, on the other hand, often need multiple treatments because their metabolism processes Bacta differently. What works perfectly for a human might only be partially effective for a Rhodian. There are also hints that Jedi healers could enhance Bacta's effects using the Force. While there's no direct evidence of this in current canon, the expanded universe suggests that Force-sensitive medics could combine their abilities with Bacta treatments to achieve even more dramatic results. Imagine Bacta that's been Force-enhanced. That's basically the ultimate healing combination. Now, all of this sounds pretty far-fetched, right? Except here's the thing, we're already building some of this stuff. We obviously can't do most of what we see in Star Wars, but when it comes to regenerative medicine, we're getting surprisingly close to Bacta-like treatments. The closest thing we have right now is probably hydrogel, water-based wound dressings that promote tissue regeneration and keep injuries sterile. Some hydrogels are even infused with growth factors, antibiotics, or stem cells to speed up healing dramatically. It's not quite Bacta, but it's working on the same principles. Then there's bioprinting, using 3D printers to build tissues layer by layer from a patient's own cells. Scientists can now print skin, cartilage, and even simple organs. It's not a tank full of healing fluid, but the goal is the same: regenerate and repair damaged tissue using the body's own cellular machinery. We've also developed spray-on skin for burn victims. Doctors harvest healthy skin cells from an uninjured part of the patient's body, process them in a lab, and then literally spray them onto wounds to stimulate healing. It's fast, minimally invasive, and already being used as a battlefield treatment by military medics. There's even research into liquid breathing, keeping patients submerged in oxygen-rich perfluorocarbon fluid during intensive medical procedures. It sounds like science fiction, but it's real. The fluid can carry more oxygen than air, and it reduces pressure on damaged lungs. It's not quite a Bacta tank, but it's moving in that direction. Think about it. Professional athletes already use hyperbaric oxygen chambers to speed recovery. These chambers increase the amount of oxygen in the blood, which accelerates healing. Some athletes also use stem cell treatments, platelet-rich plasma injections, and other regenerative therapies that can dramatically reduce recovery time. We're not that far from having something that could get you back to full strength in days instead of months. The technology exists, we're just figuring out how to combine it all effectively. The main difference is that real-world regenerative medicine is still highly specialized. We don't have a one-size-fits-all miracle cure like Bacta. Instead, we have targeted treatments for specific conditions. But we're developing new therapies all the time, and the results are getting more impressive. Will we ever have actual Bacta tanks? Probably not exactly like in Star Wars. But the idea of accelerated, full-body healing isn't as far-fetched as it used to be. We might end up with something even better: personalized regenerative treatments tailored to each individual's genetic makeup and specific injuries. The technology is impressive, sure, but there's something else about Bacta that makes it more than just advanced medicine. But Bacta isn't really just about the science, is it? In Star Wars, it represents something bigger: the idea that even in a galaxy constantly at war, healing is always possible. Think about what Bacta means in the context of the Star Wars universe. This is a galaxy that's been at war for literally thousands of years. The Jedi Civil War, the Clone Wars, the Galactic Civil War, the war with the Yuuzhan Vong, conflict is constant. In a universe like that, the ability to heal becomes more than just medical technology. It becomes a symbol of hope. Whether it's Luke recovering from his encounter with the Wampa, or Vader trying to manage decades of accumulated damage, Bacta tells the same story: survival, resilience, and the possibility of recovery, even from the worst trauma. And let's be honest, How many of us have wished we had Bacta after a particularly rough weekend, or that gym session where we definitely overdid it? The idea of being able to heal completely from any injury is universally appealing, but Bacta also represents the darker side of medical technology. The fact that it can be monopolized, weaponized, and used as a tool of political control shows us how even the most beneficial technologies can be corrupted. The Empire's control over Bacta production wasn't just about money, it was about power over life and death. By controlling who could access healing, they could determine who lived and who died. That's a terrifying level of control for any government to have. Maybe that's why Bacta has become such an iconic part of Star Wars. It's not just a plot device, it's a symbol of both hope and the potential for abuse. It represents the best and worst of what advanced technology can offer. In our world, we're already seeing similar debates around access to advanced medical treatments. Gene therapy, stem cell treatments, and other cutting-edge therapies are often expensive and limited to those who can afford them. The question of who gets access to life-saving medical technology is very real. So what do you think? Could we ever develop something like Bacta in the real world? Would you trust floating in a tank of mysterious fluid if it meant faster healing? And more importantly, how do we ensure that when we do develop these technologies, they're used to help everyone, not just the wealthy and powerful? Let me know in the comments. If this kind of breakdown is your thing, where we take sci-fi concepts and explore the real science behind them, then you'll definitely want to stick around. We've got videos planned on everything from lightsaber physics to hyperdrive theory, and we're always looking at how fictional technologies might become real. Hit subscribe if you want to see more deep dives like this, and let me know what other Star Wars tech you want us to tackle next. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.